All righty, good morning. This is Tanya Creque
Peter Williamson.
and we are doing our cohort meeting for the purposes of our Nursing 695 Nursing Synthesis course. And we have a few objectives that we have to meet during this call. Dee, do you want me to take the lead or do you want to take the lead? How do you want to roll with that?
Sure, if you want to. I have the sheet in front of me too, though.
Okay. All right, so we'll make sure to keep on task. It looks like it's right at 11 o'clock, so this was a 30-minute engagement here. And there's a few things that, we'll just talk naturally. Of course, we have a relationship already, so it's not like we're strangers in any shape, form, or fashion. But we do want to make sure that we we meet all of the objectives of the meeting. And so one of the things that we're supposed to cover is really, I think, talking about where we are, and what our goals are going forward, and then discussing really how the things that we have absorbed have made a difference, if we think they have, and how we anticipate using our new attributes. So I'll kind of throw over to you, Dee. What has this journey meant to you, do you think?
Well, sure. And as our course instructor, Kronsberg, has mentioned to us, there are people who don't know us are going to be viewing this video.
Right.
So for the purposes of people who don't know us, this is our final course. We are mere days away from our finish line for the Master's in Nurse Educator. I have come to this program with no prior education experience, but over 20 years experience as a nurse. But it's always been my desire to return to teaching. My husband and I both met as nurses active duty in the Air Force, and he went on to pursue his graduate education to become an advanced practice nurse. And he always encouraged me. He's like, "You're smart enough. You should do this too." And I'm like, well, if every smart nurse became an advanced practice nurse, there would be no smart nurses. The next generation of nurses. And so that's why I really wanted to be the force that was still teaching the next generation and recognizing, even when I got into nursing, that my parents are in the baby boomer generation, and that generation was going to always be such a demand on healthcare. So we've seen this now that the demand for nurses is still ever present, and now we've seen that demand is reflected on that there's a need for nurse faculty. And so it just so happens that gap is presenting at this time that you and I are there. Now, you have experience as faculty, but are coming to this with that experience. So we've come at this degree from two different areas. You have experience in teaching, and me having none. So, and one of the ways that they also, I think, requirements was in here was like, how do you guys plan to keep in contact with each other? Well, I feel like we're battle buddies now that we've been through this course together. And I meant to ask you this, and I haven't asked you this before. Are you on LinkedIn? Are you in that professional circle?
I do have a LinkedIn profile that is, it is not up to date.
I know.
And the reason I haven't really bothered with that, if you will, is because I'm really not out there. I'm not putting myself out there. I'm not looking. Not that it's only about employment opportunities. I'm very satisfied where I am in my current role as Director of Nursing here at ECPI. However, it's more than that. It can be utilized in a lot of different ways. So I will have to make the effort to update my LinkedIn profile. Yes. I'm not a social media buff, if you will.
Right.
And so I don't really want to be inundated with things that are not important at the moment.
Yes.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I've chosen not to really put myself out there. But you said a couple things, and I wanted to kind of bounce off of.
Mhm.
What do you think? Okay, so you mentioned about the nursing shortage, and I am keeping track of the time. You mentioned about the nursing shortage. How do you feel? How do you think you now being in? I'm gonna claim it for you, a master's prepared nurse.
Yes.
How will that make a difference in your goal to become a nurse educator to
Mhm.
positively impact or to affect that nursing shortage?
Right. So when I came to this degree, I think it was more towards that time of life where you're thinking, okay, I'm in my 40s. My body isn't maybe necessarily still built to do 312s a week,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe going more in towards the classroom, maybe more fits my family's lifestyle,
Mm-hmm.
and is better suited for me and my family and my education now. And now that I have participated in my project and gotten back at the bedside with the students, and now knowing too that education in the classroom actually asks you for an even more terminal degree,
Yeah.
I am thinking more towards staying more towards the clinical
Okay.
adjunct
Oh,
faculty
oh.
part of it.
So you
So,
like, I noticed that even, in the courses, like you were really excited about the clinical component. And I
yes,
think your project was more clinically focused, where mine was more classroom focused.
yes,
So that's really awesome because, as we both know, we have to have, in a nursing program, we have to have both ends. And
yes,
so my focus has not always been clinical. I mean, I like you, have been a nurse over 30 years now, but I've done plenty of clinical, so I'm okay with giving other people the ability to focus on the clinical component. And I really loved the classroom. So,
yeah,
for example, my graduate project, I was teaching in the classroom, and I really love that. I love the educational component. I love interacting with students and helping them to achieve their goals. So for me, this program has, so to answer some of the questions, some of the skills and attitudes and knowledge that I think that I've acquired by being in the program is really fine tuning my craft. I have
yes,
been an educator for probably in nursing education about 15 years or so, a little longer than that. But throughout my nursing career in general, I focused a lot on education.
mhm,
So it just seemed like it was a natural thing for me. So what this has done is really, and more so the back half of the program, is really pulled all the pieces together. The lesson plan, the objectives. Obviously, I was in the classroom long before I ever got this particular degree. So one might think, well, what were you doing beforehand? I mean, I certainly was getting the job done, if you will, but it's great to be able to now take the skills that I have tweaked, if you will,
right,
the knowledge that is really, it makes me want to look for more. Uh,
mhm,
Now affords me in my current role to give that to my faculty.
mhm,
As a result of our experiences here, I look at my faculty and their processes in a very different way,
right,
especially as it relates to some of the clinical components and how our clinical instructors are evaluating um, our students. Are they evaluating them in the most appropriate manner in order to ensure that they're meeting the clinical goals, the clinical objectives?
mhm,
Do we have appropriate lesson plans? As a matter of fact, I'm getting ready to start a curriculum committee on my staff here, because that's not something we do per campus. It's something more that's done in a different realm, but I think it should be done here so that those individuals that are teaching the courses have more input.
yes,
So those are a few ways that I'm going to utilize what the experiences and the knowledge that we have gained to really
mhm,
put it into action. And I
mhm,
think that's what this is all about, taking what we've learned and rolling it out, whether it makes me think also about the brand new faculty, those
mhm,
individuals that are coming from the hospital or a hands-on, that direct care role. Now you're coming into the classroom or into the clinical arena. What do I need to do to empower them to be a more effective educator? You know, we have an onboarding process, but that's not the fine detail. And so what we've learned is how to put the fine detail together to really make some awesome faculty members. And so I'm really excited about having the opportunity to do that.
Oh, yeah. And I compare it to my undergraduate experience when I felt lost all the way up until my senior practicum, whereas other friends knew, oh, I have really a heart for oncology, or I have a heart for pediatrics, and I had zero direction from all of my previous experience.
Right.
This final practicum where I had the experience of, you know, I thought I would really enjoy classroom teaching, and I did.
Right.
But I enjoyed the clinical, the smaller group, the more interaction, and still having, you know, the interaction with the patients. So the best of both worlds.
That's cool. And so look at that. I mean, the differences that we have, you know, and we have a lot of similarities as we know from behind the scenes, but the differences that we have, you know, we have found the different part of what we love so much, which is nursing, and now education added onto that to really give back in the way that's beneficial to all. So how soon do you want to, one of the questions I have for you, how soon do you want to put yourself out there? You know, when are you looking at like taking the plunge? I mean, I know it's not like official yet, but it is. When are you looking at making the plunge?
Yeah, I had zero going into this. You know, if you had said what my 5-year plan was at the start of the program to what my 5-year plan is now, very different. When I started the program, I was like, let me just get this education piece in place. And then because we are such a mobile family and we're in flux with what my husband's retirement plans are and where my son is in his school, you know, just didn't know. And so now with having had such a successful experience with my preceptor and them being so kind to say, hey, we'd love to have you join our team. So this fall, I will be joining them as adjunct, and they've also asked me if I want to take some additional qualifying courses to perhaps do some online teaching with them. So
wow.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So
check you out.
I know.
How does that feel?
A little scary.
That's exciting, Dee. Congratulations.
But awesome. Yeah. And that's like plan A right now.
Okay.
My mom, she knows a lady that has an opportunity for me to do like a remote nursing job too. So that's plan X.
So it looks like this has really opened up some opportunities that you really didn't know existed before.
Right. And I had told them this other company just they're doing like some research, and it's a company that's really growing. And when I told them, I was like, well, I'm doing my online nurse educator. And I could kind of see like maybe some wheels turning there for like, oh, well, maybe we might need you in a different capacity, not just as a person that works online, but maybe a person that would develop, you know, a program for our new people that come online. So
wow. Ooh, look at you.
Yeah. So
wow, that's okay. So then, all right. So kind of sticking with so it's funny because, you know, we have these questions we have to answer. And so I've thought about some of the things like, you know, which assignment did I like the best? Which one did I like the least? Right. So now I'm going to ask you, based upon what you just said, I want you to tell me which of all of the numerous assignments that we've had to do over the course of the program was your most helpful, do you think? And then which assignment did you not like so much, and why on both of those?
Yeah. The assignment that I liked the most was the one where we had to create the rubric.
Oh, and, okay.
Yeah. That was really super helpful to me, and that was at a time during the clinical course when we were struggling as almost like fellow faculty with a student that wasn't doing so well in their clinical and was getting these warnings.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So one of your students.
Yeah.
Wow.
Not in my group, in another group.
Okay.
So like the faculty at lunchtime, we would sit together, and they would get like these little like notices to say like, hey, you're not doing so well and you need to shape up. And so that kind of generated a conversation amongst the clinical faculty of, what is it? Because their clinical grading was just pass fail.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have a clinical scoring rubric.
Okay.
And honestly, if I had known that Towson did not have a clinical scoring rubric before I had done my graduate project, that would have been my graduate project.
Wow.
I could have made them a clinical scoring rubric.
Yeah, but you didn't really know. Know how important it was then.
I didn't know how important it was. I didn't know where I was going to do my graduate project.
Right.
I didn't know who I was going to work with. So like, yeah. So whoever needs to go to Towson University, I have a great graduate project for it.
That's awesome. So see, as the adjunct faculty, that might be something that you could offer to do for them. And now you have the scientific research behind it to demonstrate to them why it's so important.
Yes. So that is on my list of to-dos and
that's wonderful. Cha-ching. Value added service. I love it. Okay, so that was the best one. Which one was the one that you didn't care for quite so much?
The one that I didn't care for. The one that I wish that I could change. I don't know. I just always had a problem with the one in 670, the program student learning outcomes. It was just really overly vague and poorly written. Okay. I would like that one to be retooled.
Okay.
That it has value and relates to a program and course outcome,
right,
and needs to be done, but it just needs to be retooled.
Well, I think I can agree with that. And it's interesting at this juncture, looking back over the course of the entire program, which I'm thinking, we're probably just focusing on like from January till now, the last semester, because it's fresher in our mind, and it really is in our minds. And it really is what brought us here, the education piece. And I would say for me, probably that assignment that was really not my most favorite, if you will, was the one where we had to create an entire nursing program in 5 weeks. And the reason is because that was like curriculum development. So that was like the first one in the education realm, if you will. Yeah. And I think a 5-week time frame, we put in, as you well know, long, tedious hours in order to produce a stellar product. However, the average person, I think, without resources would have found that more challenging than we did, and we found it challenging. And if I could change that particular assignment, I would like to see that assignment more of developing a course as opposed to an entire program. Yeah. Because of the time frame. Because many of the things that we had to do for the entire program, you would do for a single course anyway. And I think perhaps there would be more value in that, because I don't foresee the fact that I'm going to step away from this program and my role here and go start a nursing program somewhere. So that to me is the reason that I would change it. Now, I think the assignment that I really liked the most was really our graduate project. Although we came into it, very tenuously, there was not a lot of clear direction. There was a lot of confusion along the way. I feel like, however, it really is a compilation of everything that we now have achieved. And I love the fact of being able to put it all together and like put a nice little bow on top of it and hand it to somebody and say, wow, look at what I've done. So I really, because again, I was doing something that I really love, which is teaching, which is helping students, interacting. And the other part of that was the faculty meetings that I attended, even though that wasn't part of the project,
Mhm.
was that faculty curriculum development meetings were definitely a part of this whole preceptorship process throughout, our terms. And so I really enjoyed that and learned a lot about curriculum development that I feel like really enhanced my ability to carry that forward into the role that I currently have. And let me just say a time check. We do have 10 minutes remaining.
Oh, sure.
So I think we have talked about the knowledge, skills, and attitudes, I think. We've talked about the assignment that we like the most, if you will, and the one that we didn't like all that well.
Mhm.
We talked about what we would change or add to those specific ones and how we plan to incorporate what we've learned into our job responsibilities. I think the next question I had was, so now that
I will say though, it said if you had the ability to add, I know you said add or change.
right. What would you do?
I would add a practice grading assignment. I would love more like, here's Susie's paper.
Okay.
Please evaluate, because like we would give feedback to each other.
Right.
But like now I have no experience, like when Dr. Sue will mention, like I pull up how the grading thing is.
Yes.
Speed, whatever she calls it. What does she call that program? Speed grader or?
Yeah, speed grader.
Speed
Yes.
grader.
Yes.
I have no concept of.
Well, but the thing of it is, speed grader is just a particular part of our Canvas learning management system.
Right.
So, if they use Blackboard or if they use Moodle, it would be all speed grader is just entering in the grades into the system, and then it kind of calculates based upon how you have built in the percentages and things of that nature.
Yeah.
But so you're saying you would like to have the opportunity to review assignments,
yeah,
and kind of peruse them all and actually assess a grade to, a written assignment or something like that.
Right. To like say like, okay, here's how you highlight and make notes in the, side column.
Gotcha.
And,
I see what you're saying.
to say like how to frame, not say like, I read one really good article about that, and it was saying like, when I was first giving notes to students, I would like correct like every sentence,
Yeah.
and it would like take me like hours to grade paper.
Yes, it does.
Then as I progressed, then like I would only like say like the first few lines were like, this is wrong, see before,
Right.
So kind of, like I know we talked about our grading philosophy.
Yes.
Deal with difficult students.
Which that was hard too. The teaching philosophy, I thought, was one of those that required like, what do you mean? What do you mean?
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. And I had messed that up in a previous one. I was just like, well, you should be fair,
But you know what? These assignments have made us stretch.
Yes.
Have grown. We are bringing into our respective environments for you, a lot of clinical experience and your knowledge there that you bring to the table. For me, a little bit of both, but for the last number of years, a lot of the education piece and the management piece, because I've been in management for a while. And so, we have those unique perspectives, but that's what makes it all great. So my question to you, final question, because we have like about 6 minutes left.
Oh yeah.
Where now, we had an assignment that we had to foresee or predict our 5-year plan. And you mentioned at the top of our discussion here that your 5-year plan now is very different than what your 5-year plan was before you started this journey. So here today, even knowing that you have that position waiting for you here in just a few weeks, where do you see yourself in your nurse educator role in a 5-year span, do you think?
Yeah, 5 years from now, what did I say? So that's it's getting on to my son graduating high school and preparing him for college. We will definitely, knock on wood, probably be retired and probably be in a settled location.
Yeah.
So, I would hope to be still in an adjunct kind of capacity there.
Okay.
So, one of my, and this will kind of lead into my question for you, because I was going to ask you, do you plan to seek a certified nurse educator?
Yeah, I do actually. That was part of a goal even before I did the MSN program, but clearly I had to do that first.
Right.
So my cohort, my counterpart, I guess I should say, who is the RN director, she and I are both, she's finishing her PhD. We're both talking about doing this certified nurse educator course together.
Good.
I'm waiting for her to finish the PhD, and if she doesn't hurry up, I'm going to do it without her. But I like to see the fruits of my labor fairly quickly. So I am interested in that because I think it just adds that more dimension to the specialty or the speciality of what we do. I mean, what we as nurse educators do from this point beyond is a very specialized arena. Much like the nurse practitioner, she or he has to go through additional training to be able to do what they do. We have to do the same thing. And it's not just, I've decided to come off of the floor and I want to go teach in a nursing school. In order to do it well and to be able to meet the goals and the course learning outcomes and the program learning outcomes, we really have to know what we're doing. And this really does solidify why having that MSN in nursing education concentration is so vital and valuable. We can now see firsthand why our faculty needs to have that additional preparation.
Right.
Absolutely.
So I'm not sure how soon I'll be pursuing that. And, now, like I said, that I am more gearing towards that clinical track of it, then I see that, if the DNP is not the terminal degree for me, then I can see myself more going back. I had almost, when I was working for the orthopedic practice, had almost done certified orthopedic nurse.
Well, I was going to ask you, what about clinical nurse specialist? Is that something that would be of interest to you?
Right. Yeah. So focusing more on doing the certification part of it as instead of doing doctoral.
Well, that's good. Well, but that DNP, though, is really the practical application of what we as clinicians do. So maybe that part, if you find the right program, that more appropriate than a PhD in that particular instance. Because it would help you to develop a project, is my understanding, and then you have to actually do the project. So kind of like what we did, but you develop the project and then you do the project. That sounds like, and some of the DNP programs are not very long, in length, like 4 or 7 years, which PhD, I don't know, that's out of my wheelhouse because
I think PhD is off the table. I think DNP is lofty, but it might appeal. Although my mom's like, no more. And
my husband's like, so when you go for your doctorate, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know about that. So it's funny.
But EDD is also a possibility.
Yeah, that's very true. So, let me just make sure that we were talking about sharing business cards or contact information.
Yeah.
Again,
so that's what I was talking about.
Of this video, it's funny because here, I'm going to share mine right now. I always have business cards with me, and I learned that a long time ago because we never know, on a serious note, we never know who we're going to run into. So even in my purse, I carry business cards, because I have run into so many people that I know in the community that
Mm-hmm.
are nurses, and I want to say, hey, give me a call because we're always looking for great faculty.
Yes.
So, even though as a nurse educator, just in general, we may not have a business card to hand out to people,
Right.
we always need to do self-promotion. So going
Mm-hmm.
back to what you asked about LinkedIn, that's one way that, we can maintain, we're
Mm-hmm.
going to maintain our relationship, I think, outside of that.
Oh, yeah.
Certainly from a professional standpoint, that is one way in which we can kind of keep up with each other. But also, what other ways could you think of as we try to close up here?
Oh, and now my second question for you was just where do you see the LPN programs headed? Because I know that is one area where an MSN degree is still an okay qualification to teach in an LPN program.
Sure. So, the great thing is, even though there have been some health systems in the local area that decided a number of years ago that LPNs really were not the level of nursing practice that they wanted to promote, they've gone back to it. So
Yeah.
LPNs are just as viable as they've always been. We have developed over a year ago a LPN to RN bridge program. So when our students complete their LPN and now they go on to be licensed, they can actually bridge into the RN program that we have right here in this building. So ECPI is the largest provider of LPNs on the East Coast.
Yes.
Not just here in Virginia. So what that tells me is we need nurses. Yes, it is an entry-level role for that nurse, and not everybody is designed to be an RN right out of the gate. So this gives folks a starting point. They can, dip their toe in the water, so to speak, and determine if nursing is really for them without too much time commitment. This program is 14 months, so it's just over a year. And so I see nothing but growth. Our program has grown tremendously, even in the last year. So LPNs aren't going anywhere anytime soon, I do not believe.
Yeah. And I think we had talked about that before. I really see it as a good, stepping stone.
Yes.
So many start there, and, you can start there, work off that debt.
Yep.
Not get into debt for a 4-year degree right away.
Correct.
So,
and it helps.
Help you, yeah.
Yes, it really does help everyone. And so it's a value added service that ECPI provides to those individuals that may not meet the requirements for the RN program. So I have to say we're a couple minutes over. Do you have any parting comments that you'd like to make?
So I think that we, from my sheet of paper, it looks like we've hit upon all of the requirements for the DQ. We've asked our questions and replied to each other. So this has been one of the more fun DQs.
I agree. And you know what? I'd like to say, Dee.
I don't have any references.
Yeah, right. There you go. I think you've been a great sparring partner in DQs in these last courses that we've taken. It has been, on the official side, it has been a pleasure to have you as my counterpart as we close out this particular journey. You are, as I have said to you, you have made me a better person in regards to writing and documenting and trying to become concise. And I thank you so much for that. And I hear you in my mind sometimes as I'm formulating things. So thank you. I appreciate, I'm glad that we had each other. I appreciate having you as my sister in crime, if you will, and my sister in crafting, more importantly.
I know, and my sister in Christ as well. I know we've prayed for
most definitely. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to sign off and say sayonara to those that are watching. And thank you all for providing us with the opportunity to continue to positively impact the future of nurses here in the Northeast part of the United States. Y'all have a great day.
Here we go. Thank you.
All right. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.